Is this the best new cut for barbecue? It's big, it's tender, it's juicy, and it's very, very tasty.
A big thanks to Borniak Smokers for sponsoring this video.
I'm talking about this, guys. This just might be the new cut for barbecue. Look at the sheer size of it. This thing is absolutely huge. Now, I've had this on the show before. This is called a chuck roll. But in this case, it's not just any chuck roll. It's a chuck roll that I cut out of my neighbor's bull. It's a Black Angus bull. We recently slaughtered it, then dry aged it for 14 days. And then, together with Herman Terwele, we cut out this beautiful piece. Now you might think, well, it's a chuck roll. It is, but there's a feature to this chuck roll. You see, I'm thinking about chuck roll 2.0. And that is at the bottom. You see, I left the bones on the chuck roll. So basically we got a bone-in chuck roll, and my expectations is that those bones are going to protect the meat from heat and are going to make it more juicy and more tender. Before I'm going to put some seasoning on, I'm going to put a binder on. This binder is going to help build up a beautiful bark, because the bigger the crust of seasoning is, the better the bark is going to taste. Just going to rub it in. I only need a thin layer of mustard. It's not meant to be there to actually taste it, but it's there so it helps the seasoning to stick. Of course, I'm going to season all sides of this roast. Look at the sheer size of it. This thing is freaking huge. And for seasoning, I'll be using the PITMASTERX Texas seasoning. That's going to give me the ultimate Texas flavor experience. Of course, mustard is more of a Memphis thing, but it also fits to my local flavor profile. We absolutely love mustard here. Now that the bone-in chuck roll is all seasoned up, I'm going to let it sit on the countertop for a couple of minutes while I fire up the Borniak smoker. The Borniak smoker is super easy to set up. All you need to do is switch it on, set the temperature, and I'm going to set it to 140 degrees Celsius. And that's because it's a big roast. I want to render down the fat, so I'm going to smoke it at higher temperature. And then I'm going to switch on the smoker module, which is this button, and that is just going to let me run wood chips through the smoker for hours on end. And that is exactly what I need with a big roast like this. I need consistency in smoke and temperature to get this giant roast done. Because my guess is this is about 7 kilograms, 14 pounds, and it is absolutely huge. Now let's slide it in, of course, with the bones downwards, because that is where most of the heat comes from. Jeez, look at that. That is a big chunk of meat. Of course, I put a dripping tray in, and at the last minute, I'm going to stick in a wireless thermometer to make sure that I know what the core temperature on this roast is. The bone-in chuck roll has been smoking for 4 hours. Look at the bark that we built up. It looks absolutely fantastic, and I want to keep it that way. So I'm not going to go any further on the bark, and I'm just going to put it in aluminum foil as it is. Of course, I'm going to put on some heat-resistant gloves and then try and lift it off carefully. That thing's so heavy. Oh, insane. Well, that is a big chunk of meat. I'll get this out for the moment. Then make sure I wrap it up in a way that all of the moisture will always stay in the aluminum foil. The thermometer goes back into the piece of meat and then back into the smoker. Insane. There we go. Now I'm going to shut off the smoking function, and that way I can save on wood chips, and we're now just running on electricity. And that's so convenient. If you think about a big bag of charcoal costs you 25 euros. This runs on electricity, which, well, it almost costs nothing, especially if you have a couple of solar panels. All right, more waiting ahead. I put it in a dripping tray because the amount of juice running out was insane, and the bones punctured the aluminum foil, which is definitely not ideal. But whoa, look at that. That is a beautiful bark. Let's see if we can take it off the aluminum foil. Well, you can see it slides right off the bones. The bones did some protection work for the bottom and then completely fell off, let go of the meat. Now, of course, I still have to let this rest. About 2 hours would be ideal for this piece. It's definitely something that I want to do, because the bigger the piece of meat is, the more time it needs to rest. All right, let's flip this over and take a look at the bottom where the bones fell off. Now, this is since it's a bone on, you're gonna get a little extra. That is this piece right here. This is like a really strong part of the cow. And this piece is just gotta come out first, because that's definitely not edible. That's not something that I want in my roast. That's a really, really tough part of the cow. So that's just gonna go in the bin. And then I'm gonna put it back as it was. I'm gonna slice into this roast. Right. Woo, bone in, chuck roll. There we go. That's a thick crust. It is super, super soft. And that's kind of funny because I measured it to a core temperature of 92 degrees Celsius. Wow, that is a beautiful cut. A little longer resting time would have fixed the top juiciness because, look, let's be honest here, this is pulled beef. That's how far this is. It could have rested a little longer. Then it would have appeared a little bit juicier, but I'm still super happy with the result. For me, this is a beautiful cut of meat. It's not like a brisket. Maybe the comparison with brisket's not really fair because the structure of the meat's different. You're not gonna get neat slices. You got a big chunk of meat with the grain running in all kinds of directions. So presentation-wise, it's a bit sloppy. But flavor-wise, this is even better than brisket. I just love chuck so much. It's absolutely delicious. Then would you actually consider cooking a chuck roll instead of a brisket, and why would you? Is it the price that convinced you? Is it the size that convinced you? Let me know down below in the comments, and see you guys in the next video. Cheers guys.